James Patterson bought a lottery ticket on a Tuesday afternoon in March 2015. $5. Quick pick numbers. A decision made in 10 seconds while buying gas at a convenience store in Birmingham, Alabama. 3 days later, those numbers changed his life forever. $15 million. After taxes, $9.2 million deposited into his bank account. James Patterson, 38-year-old construction worker, married father of two, suddenly richer than he'd ever imagined possible. The first year was a dream. The mansion, the cars, the trips, the feeling of never having to worry about money again, the freedom. The second year, the dreams started cracking. Bad investments, friends he didn't know he had, family members with urgent needs, lawyers with opportunities. Everyone wanted a piece. By the third year, most of the money was gone. By the fourth year, all of it. By the fifth year, James Patterson was homeless, sleeping in his car, then sleeping under bridges, wondering how someone could go from $15 million to nothing in 5 years. But this isn't just a story about losing money. This is a story about what happens when you lose everything and discover what actually matters. This is a story about a soup kitchen, a converted garage, and a family who saw a broken man and decided he was worth saving. And this is the story of how James Patterson and the Martinez family ended up on Family Feud together, not as strangers but as family. Because sometimes family isn't who you're born to. Sometimes family is who shows up when everyone else walks away. The year everything changed. March 18, 2015. James Patterson was 38 years old, married to his high school sweetheart Karen, father to two kids, Brandon, 14, and Melissa, 10. He worked construction, made decent money, owned a modest house in a working-class neighborhood in Birmingham. Life was good, not extravagant, but stable. Bills paid, kids fed, simple happiness. The lottery win changed everything instantly. The morning after the numbers were announced, James' phone started ringing at 6 a.m. and didn't stop. News crews outside his house, neighbors he barely knew congratulating him, distant relatives suddenly remembering they existed. Financial advisors materialized from nowhere, all offering to help him manage his windfall. James, who'd never had more than $3,000 in savings, suddenly had financial decisions to make that he didn't understand. He made the classic lottery winner mistakes, all of them. He quit his job immediately. Why work construction when you're a millionaire? He bought a mansion, 6,000 square feet, 6 bedrooms, pool, the works, $1.2 million, cash. He bought cars, a Mercedes for himself, a BMW for Karen, new trucks for both his brothers. He paid off his parents' house, his sister's student loans, his cousin's medical bills. He gave $50,000 to his church, $20,000 to his kids' school. He felt generous. He felt rich. He felt invincible. But money attracts predators the way blood attracts sharks. Old friends from high school started calling. They had business opportunities, just needed startup capital, $50,000, $100,000. James, wanting to be generous, wanting to be the guy who helped people, said yes, again, again, again. His brothers, who he'd given trucks to, came back. They had ideas, investments, opportunities. We're family, we should be partners. Lawyers approached with real estate deals, triple your money in 2 years guaranteed. James, who'd spent his life doing manual labor, not understanding contracts or investments, signed papers he didn't read. Within 18 months, $4 million was gone, just gone. Bad investments, loans to friends who never paid back, business opportunities that were actually scams. Karen, his wife, started to see what James couldn't see yet. The people around them weren't friends. They were opportunists. We need to stop, she told him. We need to protect what's left. But James was addicted to the feeling of being the guy with money, the guy everyone wanted to be around, the guy who could solve problems with his checkbook. He couldn't see that the money was creating more problems than it solved. By 2017, the marriage was breaking. Karen took the kids and moved in with her parents. You chose money over us, she said. Actually, you chose everyone else's needs over your family. I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore. The divorce was finalized in 2018. Karen got custody of the kids and half of what was left, which by that point was almost nothing. James was alone in the mansion he couldn't afford. The property taxes were $30,000 a year. The utilities on a 6,000 square foot house were thousands per month. His brothers stopped calling once they realized he couldn't lend them money anymore. His friends disappeared. In 2019, the bank foreclosed on the mansion. James moved into a small apartment. Then he couldn't afford that. He moved into a cheaper apartment. Then a motel. Then his car. By December 2019, 4.5 years after winning $15 million, James Patterson was homeless. Rock bottom has a basement. Sleeping in your car is cold in December in Alabama. James would park behind a Walmart, engine running to keep warm until security knocked on the window and told him to move. Then he'd find another parking lot. Then another. When the car finally died, couldn't afford to fix it. James slept under bridges, in parks, behind dumpsters, anywhere he could find that was semi-safe. He'd lost more than money. He'd lost his wife. His kids barely spoke to him. His family had written him off. He made his choices. His brother said he could have set himself up for life. Instead, he threw it away. James agreed with him. He'd thrown it away. He'd been stupid, greedy, trusting all the wrong people. He deserved this. That's what he told himself every night as he tried to sleep on concrete. Depression settled in like fog. What was the point? He'd had everything and lost it. There was no coming back from this. He was 43 years old, with no job, no money, no home, no family, just a cautionary tale. Remember that guy who won the lottery and ended up homeless? What an idiot. The worst part wasn't the cold or the hunger. The worst part was the shame, the absolute crushing shame of knowing that millions of people would kill for the opportunity he'd had, and he'd wasted it. In March 2020, on the 5-year anniversary of winning the lottery, James sat behind a grocery store dumpster and seriously considered whether living was worth it anymore. That's when he met Maria Martinez. The Soup Kitchen. Community Hope Church ran a soup kitchen every Wednesday evening. Hot meal, no questions asked. Everyone welcome. Maria Martinez had been volunteering there for 3 years. Her husband Carlos, their teenage kids Sophia and Miguel, they all took turns serving food, cleaning up, treating every person who walked through the door with dignity. James hadn't been to the soup kitchen before. Too proud, too ashamed. But on March 18, 2020, exactly 5 years after winning the lottery, he was too hungry to care about pride anymore. He walked in, head down, avoiding eye contact, took a tray, got in line. Maria was serving that night. She looked at James, really looked at him. Not with pity, not with judgment, just with recognition that he was a human being who needed a meal. "How you doing tonight?" she asked, ladling soup into a bowl. James mumbled something. "Rough day?" Maria continued. Not pushy, just present. "Rough 5 years," James said before he could stop himself. "Well, you're here now, and this soup is good. My husband made it. He thinks he's a chef." She smiled. A genuine smile. The first smile directed at James in months that wasn't mocking or pitying. James took his soup and found a corner table. He ate slowly, making it last, because he didn't know when the next meal would be. After dinner, as people were filing out, Maria approached his table. "I'm Maria, you new around here?" James: "Yeah, first time." "Well, hope we see you again. Wednesdays at 6. "Thanks," James said, and he meant it. He came back the next Wednesday, and the next. For 3 months, James came to Wednesday Soup Kitchen. Maria and her family were always there. They started to recognize him. Carlos would give him extra bread. Sophia would save him dessert. Miguel would sit with him sometimes just talking about basketball. The Martinez family treated James like he was a person, not a problem. One evening in June, after Soup Kitchen, Maria approached James as he was leaving. "James, can I ask you something personal?" He tensed. Here it comes. The questions. The judgment. "Where are you staying?" Maria asked gently. James considered lying, but what was the point? Nowhere, streets, parks, wherever. Maria nodded, not surprised. "Carlos and I were talking. We have a converted garage. It's small, but it's got a bed, heat, bathroom. You want to stay there for a bit? Just until you get back on your feet." James stared at her. "Why would you do that?" "Because you need a place, and we have one." Seems simple. "You don't even know me. So tell us about yourself, we've got time." That night, James told the Martinez family his story. All of it. The lottery win, the millions lost, the divorce, the homelessness, the shame. He waited for the judgment, the "you're an idiot" that he deserved. Instead, Maria said, "That must have been so hard, all those people using you, and then being alone when it was gone. That's really hard." Carlos added, "Money's complicated, man. Everyone thinks they'd do better, but who knows? You trusted people." "That's not a character flaw." "The garage is yours if you want it," Maria said. "No time limit, no rent, just, when you're back on your feet, maybe help someone else someday." James cried for the first time in years. Not from sadness, from the shock of being treated like he mattered. Rebuilding from zero, James moved into the Martinez's converted garage in June 2020. It was small, basically a studio apartment. Bed, mini fridge, bathroom. but it was warm. It was safe. It was more than he'd had in months. The Martinez family didn't treat him like a charity case. They treated him like family. Maria knocked on the garage door most mornings. Coffee's ready if you want some. Carlos invited him to watch football on Sundays. Sofia and Miguel treated him like an uncle. But Maria also didn't let him wallow. 2 weeks after moving in, she sat him down. "What's your plan?" "Plan? To get back on your feet. What do you need?" James hadn't thought about a plan. He'd been in survival mode for so long. "I don't know. A job, I guess." "What did you do before the lottery?" "Construction." "You still know how to do construction?" "Yeah, hands still work." "Then let's find you work." Maria connected James with a contractor friend who needed laborers. James started working day jobs, physical labor, the kind of work he'd done before the lottery, the work he actually knew how to do. It felt good, honest, real. But James had deeper problems than unemployment. He had debt from the bad investments. He had a destroyed credit score. He had no financial literacy. He'd proven that by losing $15 million. Maria connected him with a free financial counseling service. James spent months with a counselor, learning what he should have learned before winning the lottery: how to budget, how to save, how to say no, how to recognize scams. He also started attending EA meetings, even though alcohol wasn't his primary problem. But listening to other people talk about rock bottom and rebuilding helped. He realized he'd been addicted to something: the feeling of being needed, being important, being the guy with money. Slowly, over 18 months, James rebuilt. He got a steady job with a construction company. He opened a new bank account. The first time he'd had an account in years, he started saving, $20 at a time, tiny amounts, but it was progress. He reached out to his kids. Brandon was 19 now, Melissa 15. They were cautious, hurt, but willing to talk. James didn't make excuses. "I messed up. I chose wrong. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do better." The reconciliation with his kids was slow, but it was happening. By 2023, James had moved out of the Martinez garage into his own small apartment. Not fancy, but his, paid for with money he earned. He stayed close with the Martinez family. They'd become his family. Not because they had to be, but because they chose to be. In early 2024, Maria had an idea. "You ever watch Family Feud?" "Sure, sometimes." "We should apply as a family." "I'm not your family." Maria looked at him like he'd said something ridiculous. "James, you've lived in our garage. You've watched football with Carlos every Sunday for 3 years. Sofia practiced her quinceañera dance with you because her Tio couldn't make it. Miguel considers you his uncle. What part of that isn't family?" "But I'm not related." "Family isn't just blood, James. You're our family. Now you want to play Family Feud with us or not?" James, for the second time since meeting the Martinez family, cried. The day that changed everything. September 2024. Family Feud Studios, Atlanta, Georgia. The Martinez family, Maria, Carlos, Sofia, Miguel, and James Patterson, stood backstage, nervous and excited. James was wearing clothes that Carlos had helped him pick out. Nice shirt, pressed pants. He looked like a regular person. Not a former millionaire. Not a former homeless person. Just a regular guy about to play a game show with his family. Steve Harvey was in his pre-show rhythm, working the audience, getting ready. The producers had read the family's application, which mentioned that James was adopted family who'd been helped through hard times, but they didn't know the full story. "The Martinez family from Birmingham, Alabama," Steve announced as they walked onto the stage. The family took their positions at the podium. James stood at the end, the 5th position. His heart was pounding. This was surreal. 5 years ago, he'd been sleeping behind dumpsters. Now he was on national television with the people who'd saved his life. Steve came over for introductions. "The Martinez family. Let me meet you folks. Maria, the matriarch. Carlos, the patriarch. Sofia, and Miguel, the kids. And James, James Patterson. How do you fit into this family, James?" James glanced at Maria, who nodded encouragingly. They took me in when I had nowhere else to go." Steve's antenna went up. He'd been hosting long enough to sense when there was a story. "Took you in? What do you mean?" James looked at the Martinez family. They'd talked about this, about whether to tell the truth on national television, about whether to risk the judgment, the shame, the "what an idiot" comments. Maria squeezed James's hand. "Tell him. It's okay." James took a breath. "Steve, 9 years ago, I won the lottery, $15 million. The audience gasped. Steve's eyebrows shot up. "You won $15 million? "Yes, sir. And I lost all of it. Every penny. Bad investments, bad decisions, people taking advantage. By 2019, I was homeless. Living on the streets, I'd lost my wife, my kids barely talked to me. I had nothing. The studio was completely silent. This wasn't the usual game show story. I ended up at a soup kitchen, James continued. The Martinez family volunteered there. They saw me week after week, and instead of judging me for being the idiot who won millions and lost it, they invited me to stay in their garage. They gave me a place to live, helped me find work, taught me how to manage money, treated me like family. They saved my life, not with money, with kindness. Steve Harvey stood there, cards in hand, completely still. After 30 seconds of silence, he said, "Maria, why did you do that? Why take in a stranger?" Maria shrugged. He needed help. We could help, seemed simple. But he'd lost $15 million. He made bad choices. A lot of people would say he didn't deserve help. Maybe, Maria said, but everybody deserves a second chance. Everyone makes mistakes. His mistakes just happen to be really public and really expensive. Doesn't make him less human. Carlos added, plus he's good people. Once you get to know him, hardworking, honest, kind. The lottery thing, that was just bad luck and bad advice. The real James, he's family. Steve turned to James. How does it feel to hear them say that? James was crying. On national television in front of millions of people, he was crying. It feels like I've been given something more valuable than the $15 million I lost. They gave me my life back. Not my money. My life, my dignity, my family. That's worth more than any amount of money. Steve Harvey set his cards down. Ladies and gentlemen, I've hosted this show for years. I've heard a lot of stories, but this is what life is about. This is what family means. James, you lost $15 million, but you gained something priceless. The audience erupted in applause, a standing ovation. Not for the money, not for the lottery, for the love, for the family that chose each other. You know what? Steve said. We're going to play this game, and whatever you win, it's going to mean more than that $15 million ever did, because you earned this together. The game nobody will forget. The Martinez family played the game differently than most families. They weren't playing to win money, though they wanted to win. They were playing to celebrate what they'd become. A family not by blood but by choice. When a question came up, name something people value more than money, James answered without hesitation. Family, number one answer on the board. When they asked, name something you'd give to someone in need, Maria answered, a place to stay. They didn't win every round. The opposing family, a nice group from Texas, played well, but there was something about the Martinez family's energy that was different. They were genuinely happy to be there. Together, in the final round, fast money, James and Carlos played. They needed 180 points to win $20,000. Carlos went first, scored 142 points. James needed 38 points. Steve read the questions. James answered quickly, confidently. When the final answer revealed, they'd scored 195 points total. They'd won $20,000, split 5 ways, $4,000 each. 9 years ago, James had $15 million. Today, $4,000 felt like a fortune because he'd earned it. With his family, the right way. After the cameras stopped rolling, Steve called James and the Martinez family aside. Of course, if you could go back, would you rather have the $15 million or this? He gestured at the Martinez family. What you have now. James didn't hesitate. This, 1,000 times. This, the money destroyed my life. These people built it back. That's worth everything. Steve pulled out his phone. I'm going to give you something, my personal number. You ever need anything, advice, help, just someone to talk to, you call me because your story needs to be told. People need to hear what you learned. James took the number, stunned. Thank you. No, thank you. You reminded me why I do this. It's not about the game, it's about the people. Why this story matters. The episode aired 3 months later as a special Family Feud titled, When Family Chooses You. It became one of the highest-rated episodes of the season. But more than ratings, it started conversations. Lottery winners reached out to James. I'm going through what you went through. Everyone wants money. I don't know who to trust. James started a support group for lottery winners, teaching them what he learned the hard way. Financial literacy advocates use James' story in seminars. This is why education matters. James didn't fail because he was stupid. He failed because nobody taught him how to handle sudden wealth. Homeless advocates shared the story. This is what housing first looks like. The Martinez family didn't require James to prove he deserved help. They just helped, and it worked. But perhaps most importantly, the episode inspired ordinary people, Thousands of messages poured in. I'm going to volunteer at a soup kitchen. I have a spare room. Maybe I can help someone. I judged homeless people. I won't anymore. The Martinez family didn't set out to change the world. They just saw one person who needed help and helped him. James Patterson today. James Patterson is now 47 years old. He works full-time in construction, the job he'd left when he won the lottery. He makes about $50,000 a year. He lives in a modest apartment. He drives a used truck. He has a savings account with $8,000 in it. It's taken him years to save that much. It's not $15 million, but it's his, earned honestly. And he'll never lose it because he's finally learned what money means. He sees his kids regularly now. Brandon is 23, working as an electrician. Melissa is 19 in college. They've forgiven him, slowly, but completely. He still lives 3 blocks from the Martinez family. Sunday dinners are tradition. Football with Carlos, coffee with Maria. James volunteers at the same soup kitchen where he once ate. He serves soup to people who remind him of who he was, and he treats them the way Maria treated him, with dignity. When people recognize him from the Family Feud episode, and they do, regularly, they ask the same questions. Do you regret winning the lottery? Yes and no, James says. I regret the pain I caused, the years I lost with my kids, the mistakes I made. But if I hadn't won and lost that money, I wouldn't have met the Martinez family. I wouldn't have learned what actually matters. I wouldn't be who I am now. So maybe I had to lose everything to find what was actually valuable. Would you play the lottery again? James laughs. Never. I already won the lottery. Just took me a while to realize the prize wasn't money. It was family, and you can't buy that. The Martinez family still volunteers at Soup Kitchen every Wednesday. They still look for the people who need help because that's who they are. Maria says it best. We didn't save James. He saved himself. We just gave him a safe place to do it. That's what family does. And James keeps Steve Harvey's number in his phone. Not because he needs help, but because it reminds him that everyone's story matters, even the people who make terrible mistakes and lose everything. Especially those people. Because rock bottom isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's just the beginning.